Good morning to everyone. I'm Paul Prescott, the president of the Calaveras Big Trees Association. I'm officially opening our 2023 annual meeting. Before you is the minutes of the June 25th, 2025 annual meeting, which is say last year. You have that before you. Are there any questions about the minutes? Good, because I'm probably not going to answer any anyway. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from last year's annual meeting?
So moved.
So moved and second?
So seconded.
All right. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor of accepting the moments of last year's minutes signify by raising your hand saying aye.
Aye.
Use your little hand thing on the bottom. Just remember to take it down, and therefore the minutes are approved. So once again, welcome. I'd like to do some introductions real quickly. And so since most of us are in gallery mode here, I would like to introduce, first of all, our board. So I'm Paul Prescott, the president. Marcy Powers is one of our vice presidents, and Vita Kenk is our other vice president. She is also the former president and also the former president. She was president of CBTA when the visitor center opened in 2013, the fall of 2013. And she was the president of the visitor center when it got closed by the pandemic in 2020.
Yep.
So we have, she's left a nice bar for me to try to hurdle, and I won't even try to do that. I have also, our treasurer, is Bob here yet?
Yes.
Yes,
Bob?
I'm here, but I'm not visible.
Okay, so I guess we just can't see your beautiful, lovely face. Bob is our treasurer. And then our other members, let's see, Patty Haskell. Patty's waving. And she is our vice president. She's in charge of seminars and events. So all the things that we put on, either separate from the park or in conjunction with the park, that's her bailiwick. And she's really, really good at it. One of the things I admire about Patty is that her minutes for her meeting are out usually within an hour of the meeting. It's like, whoo, this one's efficient. I like that. Now, my other board members, let's see, going through my line. Betty, where are you? There's Betty. Betty has been in charge of hospitality going back years and years and years. She has been on the board before. Okay. All right. Only years she's been on. Bunny has been on for years and years and years. Okay, so we'll do that. And
Peter Ralston.
there's Betty, and she will also be introduced later on, as she was in charge of the scholarship meeting before. Then we have Peter. Where's Peter?
Peter's here.
Peter is our board member and has been on some of our committees as well. All right, I was doing this and I probably should have written everything. Did I forget anyone? Okay, move on to our staff. First, I'd like to call out and embarrass Sue Hoffman. Anytime you call her out and sing her praise, she will get irritated with me, but I'll hear about that later. Sue is the magician with technology. In a sense, she reminds me of my mother, who was learning technology well past her 80s. Sue's not there yet. No. But she is the one who gets our Zoom meetings going. She's the one who keeps track of membership. She's the one who kicks me in the rear and tells me I need to get such and such done on time. And Sue, there's no way I can say thank you enough. And Sue is coming up on 15 years with CBTA. Right? All right. And hired about 2 weeks later, I think it was, is Debbie. Wave your hand, Debbie. Now it's my turn to embarrass you.
I was first.
Oh, you were before?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I
Anyway,
was here.
also a 15-year veteran of CBTA is Debbie McGee, who technically I call her bookkeeper plus. She does almost everything that has to do with payroll, with paying the bills, with helping with the budget, with helping with administering the mitigation grants that come in for delivery to the state. Basically, she's the money person and knows where everything has been spent. And so thank you, Debbie, for all that. And but not least, only because of seniority, Jacob has been with us closing on 5 years. Am I correct?
Yep. 5 years in August.
Certainly one of the best hires we've done. We have, until the last couple of years of recession, each year, because of the retail manager involved, have exceeded beyond belief our expectations for how much money we would bring in. Jacob brings in corporate retail experience. In fact, it took him, I think, about a year or two to figure out we're not corporate, but he's now breathing pretty well. And he's figured out that this is actually a pretty good place to work. But Jacob is in charge of the personnel who man the retail center. He works closely with originally Amber, when Amber was our interpreter one here, and now with Lily and Carrie, to basically, it's a wonderful fine dance in the visitor center between what's CBTA and what's DPR. And Jacob, it's been wonderful to see you do that. And even later, Jacob is I'm going to toot your horn right now. Jacob is the mastermind behind getting a food trailer into this park so that you can finally buy food in Calaveras Big Trees. That's coming soon. And so we thank you for all of that. I have Brett Hewitt here, and you can wave your hand. He's on our advisory council, and he'll be having a speech about our one of our scholarships as it comes up. Okay, now I'm zooming through names. That's terrible when you're introducing people because you might forget someone. Am I forgetting anyone, Sue?
Not for staff.
Okay. DPR folk, we've mentioned Amber. Amber is our, hope I get it right, Marketing and Public Relations Director for the entire Central Valley District. Did I get that right, Amber?
Close.
Close. Do you want
Close.
to correct
Public
me?
Information Office. and
Public
Marketing.
Information Office. Okay.
Very close.
Very close. All right. Amber, for those of you who are new, had been our interpreter one for 3 years. And she started like 2 weeks before the whole shutdown. So she has learned a lot here, but she's given back, I think, 10 times more than she's learned or gained from here. We're very grateful for having you here. And Carrie, I'm not seeing Carrie, so she must be on one of my others. There's Carrie. Okay.
Hi.
Hi, Carrie is it fair to say you're the interpreter one interim in chief, or anyway, you're in charge until the interpreter one is actually here. Is that correct? You and Lily?
Somewhat. We're kind of all co-leading. Teddy and I are the senior park aides. I'm the volunteer coordinator, and Lily is the interpreter one. And we've all kind of divvied up the position and taking it on as a team. We'll have an interpreter one in the office soon. But yes, I am taking on a lot of those roles, and I'm really liking it.
Yes, and
so
doing a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And there's been about a 3-month transition. Am I right, Amber, that you've been excellently doing 2 jobs at the same time, preparing for a new person here and preparing for your new job. So if you're doing 2 jobs, did they pay you 2 salaries? Probably no. Yeah.
No.
We wish, right? Yeah, that's the way it goes. All right, who am I not introducing who should be introduced?
Carrie, can you please introduce, or maybe you did and I missed it, introduce your colleague,
Yes, I would love to introduce my colleague.
Thank you.
Alicia? Did I
Yeah, this is,
remember it right?
this is Kalisha Sierra Santiago. And she's an intern here. We only have one intern here right now. Our next intern's name is Wendy, and she will be here next week. And Kalisha has stepped right in and done a fantastic job. She has amazing people skills and has learned amazing things already on her feet. And we're glad to have her here.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me.
From Florida, no less, right, Kalisha?
Yeah, yes.
And she's
Yep.
originally Puerto Rican.
And welcome indeed. All right.
We had a
Why don't I
conversation
do,
yesterday. I met her.
I think we'll do that. Okay, I've got to be forgetting someone, but maybe it's just time to go
You should
on.
mute me. Okay.
Thank you very much for the nice little chat and text there. All right, if that's the welcome and the introductions, I'm going to introduce one more person, Sally Finch. Why don't you wave, Sally, so you can see where you are. Sally Finch has been attending board meetings for some time. She's a teacher down in San Andreas area, but lives up in Vallecito, if I remember correctly. And she's going to be our new addition candidate to be a member of the board. So welcome to Sally. And I think anything more that becomes campaigning. So that's the way that's going to go. All right. I believe I'm ready to move on to the park status report. So Amber, it's all yours. And thank you again for being here.
Thank you, Paul, and thanks for all the introductions. Now I know some more familiar faces out there. I also was going to take a moment just to kind of explain, I am here for Mike Merritt, who is the Cooperating Association liaison. So I'm kind of just him today and filling in a little bit. But I did want to share with you kind of what I'm doing now, because I've been getting a lot of questions from folks as like, hey, you're still in the park. What are you doing here? I will still be in the park on occasion, but I have been transitioning out, like Paul mentioned, since April. And actually my last official date of transition is tomorrow. So I am going to be there. I'm going to be in uniform helping with the last event for Parks Week, which I'll get to in a minute. And that's my last official day of a transition. So I will be there much less. There's a tear running down my face because I will miss it. Now I work for all 14 parks in this district. So the Central Valley District is 14 parks. That includes me working for not only the district superintendent, but 3 sector superintendents, as well as every program manager, like interpretation, facilities, natural resources, cultural resources, you name it. I work for everyone. I also work very closely with our communications office in Sacramento. So that's kind of what I do. And I will be out in the parks on occasion, maybe I'm helping Mike, for instance, with the interpretive master plan that we are working on. And so I will be helping him with town halls as it comes forward and his virtual meetings. So I'm working with him in Riggs and Ward to get that information out to the public. So you will see me. So that's one of our updates is we have the interpretive master plan coming up, and we have some public workshops that will be available. And we will be getting out more information here shortly, but there will be an in-person one in early July, and then there will be a virtual one in early August that anyone can attend. So it's open to volunteers, it's open to CBTA members, it's open to the general public. So if you have a friend that's super interested in education and interpretation, or a neighbor or whatever, that's a really good way to get their voice into the interpretive master plan process when it comes to Calaveras big trees. So that's an exciting new thing that CBTA has helped support, and that is underway right now. So that interpretive master plan.
Excuse me, Amber, can you briefly explain what an interpretive master plan is?
Yes. So an interpretive master plan, to give it the briefest explanation, goes hand in hand with our general plan, which is the overall plan for the park. but it is narrowed down to what we are talking to the public about. So what we're educating them on, what we're inspiring them on, and connecting them to the park on. So it's very, very important for us going forward. It will help make decisions on what we choose to do and focus on. And that includes everything from programming to topics to construction. It'll have a lot of impacts across the park. So it is very, very important for us going forward. Does that help? Okay. Some other things that I did want to go over. It is California State Parks Week, as Paul mentioned, which is really, really exciting. It's the second annual California State Parks Week. They did Parks Week last year. It was kind of, promoted. This year, they put a lot of promotion into it, and a lot of parks have picked up and done events. There were almost 200 events across the entire state. And at last count, Central Valley District had 19 events across 6 parks. So out of our 14 parks, 6 did events, and the park with the largest number of events was Calaveras Big Trees. Congratulations, interp docents and CBTA. So in our district, we have a large number of events just at Calaveras Big Trees. So for example, for those of you who haven't been following, yesterday they did Junior Rangers and Cubs focused on climate change, as well as there was a dedication to make the South Grove part of the Old Growth Forest Network. And so that happened, and then they went on a hike to explore the South Grove. So the South Grove is now part of the Old Growth Forest Network, which is pretty cool. The other thing that happened was Carrie led a fire and forest community guided hike. And how many people did you have, Carrie? You had like a number.
15.
15. And they were all very excited from what I understood and enjoyed the hike on the Grove Overlook Trail that Carrie took them on. The last big event that we have for Calaveras Big Trees is tomorrow. And that is an event focused on partnership and caring for our shared lands, which is the theme for the day. And I know Vita and Sue are helping out with that and representing CBTA. And we're doing a children's career fair. So they will be part of that career fair tomorrow from 11:30 to 1:30. And so that's kind of exciting. We did a career fair last year. We did it kind of during the week, and it was pretty successful. So we're hoping, this is Father's Day, that we should have a pretty decent turnout in the park, and hopefully a lot of people have a chance to do those hands-on activities and have some fun. The other exciting news from this week is California State Parks and CAL FIRE worked together this week to conduct a prescribed burn in the park. This prescribed burn concluded yesterday. It completed 43 acres. This prescribed burn was focused around the maintenance yard unit. There were 2 units. They split it up in 2 days. So there was 1 unit, they did 23 acres, and then the following day they did 20 acres. These units had been prepped like most prescribed burn units for many years. So both CAL FIRE, parks, and other folks have removed material from the area and prepped the area to do these prescribed burns, and it's taken them years. There's lots of fuel out there. They had to navigate a lot of challenges like drainages, power lines, all kinds of fun stuff yesterday and the day before, and the highway. But they did complete those successfully. And that brings us very close to encircling the North Grove with recent prescribed fire. We're not there yet, but we're getting very, very close. So that was a good success this week, all going on during Parks Week. So we've been very busy in the park. Some other sad news that has been impacting campers is the dump station has been closed for almost 2 weeks now, if I'm right. It's pretty close to 2 weeks. And I am sure it is an inconvenience to most campers in the park, and it's unexpected. It sounds like everything gets dumped in the dump station, like everything. And that's hard on the dump station. So not good. So it's undergoing a little unexpected maintenance. The last thing is interpretation definitely wants me to make you guys aware of summer programming begins this week. Don't miss it. There'll be campfire programs, junior rangers, astronomy programs done by the astronomy crew, 2 astronomy crews, if I'm right. And then the only big thing is Creek Critters, which is a normal hit during the summer has not started due to the extraordinary amount of water we have running through the park still. So Creek Critters is on a bit of a delay. Paul mentioned it. Next Saturday is the 92nd birthday, so they'll be celebrating with card making and an activity for children. Mike Merritt is still working on the warming hut with the Northern Service Center. The bridge over the Stanislaus is still 1 lane and will continue to be. The food trailer, which was mentioned, still in progress.
Amber, I'm not sure for my screen, you have frozen.
Yes, I can't. Yeah, there you go.
Okay,
Did I go away for a minute?
yeah.
Appeared right when you said food trailer.
Oh, hang
Maybe
on.
she went to get a bite to eat.
It's saying my internet's unstable, so let me turn off my video so hopefully you can hear me.
Okay,
Can you still hear me?
Yes.
yes.
Okay, the food trailer is still in the PEF process. And that means that it's still under review. And I think it's got like a week and a half left in review. So hold tight. Hopefully that's done here soon. And then the interpreter 1, the position that I just vacated, the interviews should be set for early July. So hopefully we'll have someone in that role here in the near future. Any questions on that before I get to my last bit?
Yeah, Amber, the daily activities, do they actually start tomorrow? And they, like Junior Majors Cups are not tomorrow, but Monday. Are they daily, Cubs and
Today.
Rangers? Today they started?
Cubs and Rangers aren't daily. I think Tuesday's missing, if I recall, from Cubs and Rangers. Otherwise, they're daily. So they're most days, just missing Tuesdays.
Okay, thank you.
Good question. Okay, then the last part I wanted to talk a little bit about is giant sequoia injury and fire. I took on this current role, as you guys now know, very recently, been transitioning out. And during that time, I obviously didn't get information out to partners, which is one of my goals, is to better communication with partners as well as the public soon enough on both fire, giant sequoia life cycle, char, scorch, and fire resilience. Unfortunately, nobody wants to see a giant sequoia injured by fire, especially prescribed fire, especially those people and crews that are working so very hard year round with the primary goal of giant sequoia stewardship in mind. And sadly, an injury or an unexpected outcome from a prescribed fire is hard to take, frankly, and it's a learning lesson, hopefully for the future. I just want to say that it's a reminder that fire is not an exact science and that variables are not always known. However, giant sequoia reproduction depends on it. Fire helps them start growing. It thins out the young giant sequoias, and it clears the canopy, providing sunlight. Good fire is so hard for people to understand and grasp. It's understandable, right? Wildfire is a threat. It's not if, it's when. So it's out there. I just want to say interpretation got nailed yesterday by one of the delivery guys who came in to deliver packages, who started basically giving them a hard time and harassing them a little bit about the prescribed fire the day before, telling them it got out of control, not listening, and just genuinely not understanding that some fire is good. And he was out there, you know, in his mind, it was really out of control. Well, from our point of view, it actually was having a hard time burning the first day that we were burning. It was wet. The relative humidity was up in the upper 50s and 60s. So it was having a hard time consuming what we intended. It eventually kicked up as it warmed up during the day. But from our point of view, it was very within control and kind of on the light side. But it just goes to show that the understanding and misunderstandings about prescribed fire are real and out there. And it's hard to correct because fire is fear-based and we have a guttural reaction to fear. The orphans are surrounded in misunderstanding and fire effects are very, very, very complex. The area around the orphans was prepared just like any other giant monarch. Crews followed the recommendations based on experts outside of California state parks who specialize in sequoia fire ecology. It is important to note that the orphans were never actually on fire. Therefore, there was no effort made to put them out, and nor was it felt necessary to monitor them. They were impacted due to scorch, due to convective heat. And the best way that I can explain that is if you take a marshmallow and you put it over the campfire and it burns, it doesn't have to be in the fire to both create the char on the outside and to give it a good burn. It doesn't even have to catch on fire. It can just be charred from being above that heat. So it's hard for people to understand that the trees can look the way they do today just from heat. The amount of heat that was generated around the orphans was not necessarily unusual. It was not anticipated that the trees would experience the amount of scorch that occurred. The injury we see today can be contributed to climate change and ongoing drought, which made these trees more susceptible to fire than had been the norm over the past several decades since prescribed fire was first used to promote sequoia regeneration. Scorch is not apparent for several days to weeks after ignition. Less than a week after ignition, a significant snowstorm, which resulted in parkway closure, happened. Snow lasted through the entire winter, which is why the scorch was not noticed until spring, when the parkway reopened. These trees' survival is unknown. We can't say for sure whether they'll survive or even not survive. They can be impacted by conditions such as drought, heavy winters, and other variables that we may not know. I wanted to let you guys know this also so that we can help put out misunderstandings and so that we can protect the seedlings that are now growing under their base. So we did put a fence around the base of those two monarchs with some messaging, because I don't think people are aware of the hundreds of seedlings that are now growing around their base because they're tiny. And we definitely want to give them the best start to life that we can, especially if we do lose one of those trees. All right. I know I gave a really long update, but that's what I have.
Before I open it up for questions, Amber, I want to say thank you for being so totally transparent about what's going on. Thank you for several things. One, the importance of fire. The fact that fire is a scary thing and it's a very tricky thing. We thank you for, please pass on. I think all of us would say thank you for the people who are working on the prescribed burns, both in the clearing out, which can be almost as dangerous as the fire itself, and yet they're putting their lives on the line in order to try to ultimately save it. And as you said, we now have a ring around the North Grove, or close to a ring around the North Grove. And that's where about, if I'm not mistaken, 95% of the people usually end up when they're in the park. So this is an important thing. It's going to be an ongoing thing. It's just, it's hard for everyone. And that was just a hard delivery you just made. So if anyone has a question of Amber about that or anything else, I heard the dump stations were like clogged and you needed like a huge rotor-rooter or something to get it out. Yeah.
It didn't sound good.
Yeah. Yeah. Any questions for Amber? I'm assuming. Okay, I'm checking both sides. I'm not seeing any questions. Anyone care to say thanks to Amber for her 3 years here? Go ahead and text something, chat something, shout it out right now. Do it all at the same time so that no one can hear you. All right.
Hi, could I, since I was president for the first 2 years of Amber, and I may say that she joined us, as I believe, on March 1st, and everything closed down on March 13th. Yes, I just met Amber, and then whoosh, and she's been really, really helpful working with Jacob. Everything that we have for sale in the visitor center, needs to be approved. We don't want to do, any kitschy things. Yeah, it has to have some kind of interpretive value. The books are obvious, but some of the other things may not be quite as obvious, but they do engage the public with the park and with the wildlife and things like that. So Amber, you've been a joy to work with. Let me just say that. And I'm really quite excited about your new position, and I really hope that we will continue to work together and get good communication out to the public, because we have the same goal. We love the park, and we want visitors to have the best experience they can, and we want everybody to want to preserve and the park and enjoy it for future generations. We're just the stewards now of a short period of time in the lives of these trees, and we need to keep it going. So thank you, Amber, for all that you have done and all that you will be doing, which is very exciting.
Thank you. I really do hope that I can make communication better for Big Trees, but also for other parks in the district. That is a main goal of mine. So you can help by telling me where I'm missing and being very transparent. I appreciated a few phone calls in the last couple of weeks from some volunteers telling me where I was missing. So it was very, very much appreciated to give me that kind of information. Yeah.
And I just say that the education that in just what you read today, Amber, was perfect, because I wrote down some key points to that. Necessary, fire is fear, I believe that, but the education that people get from just those words is immeasurable. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I'd like to suggest, if I may, Amber, that we want to try to get CBTA and Calaveras Big Trees in the district on the same page about everything, but maybe these talking points could be published somewhere that every member, I'm sure you do this for the docents, right? And here's docents, this is what you say, and if they ask a political question, you don't answer it, you bounce it up the chain and so on. But perhaps not just our staffs, but maybe everyone who's involved. And we need to pass this kind of information on to everyone, not just in the park, but I think in the community as well. Because the prescribed burning and the clearing is going on all the way from basically Angels Camp and Murphy's all the way up. Wouldn't surprise me, it's going to go all the way up to Tamarack and Bear Valley pretty soon. But these are vital, important things. So getting key catchwords and phrases that we can do might be something we can start working on together.
Yeah, I agree. And it is important from my end to do that early because at a certain level, and I'm just going to say it's out of my hands. So.
Agreed. Agreed. All right. Any other questions for Amber? Thank you.
Yes, I have one.
Oh,
Amber,
go ahead.
would it be possible for you to do, I know you'd love this, a video of what you just said that we could post it?
Not at this time. This is one of those things that's out of my hands. And so this was for you guys as partners.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Too bad.
Okay.
Because it would be very helpful.
All right. I will move on to the president's report, which can usually be nice and short and sweet because everyone has something to say and all I have to do is brag about people in their roles. But just a couple of things. Once again, on the interpretive master plan, part of the proceeds from CBTA went to fund the interpretive plan. I don't know what percentage of it, but I know we put a good hunk of money down a few years ago. And it's great to see this thing going. And what Amber's talking about on July 12, I think it's the 12th, put it on your calendars. It's an in-person meeting, I think, and I think the Zoom meetings are coming later. If you can attend in person, this is for anyone and everyone. We had a preliminary meeting with some CBTA folks, a lot of DPR folk, and representatives from the Miwok tribe, and basically did the learning stages. And it was neat to see how 4 different groups of people, because they were smart enough to split us out of our comfort zone and to talk to other people. It was amazing how much in common, probably 90% of what we shared was exactly right in terms of things that we want. But basically the general question is, what do we want to see the park look like in terms of the programming, in terms of the education interpretation over the next 10, maybe even 15 years? I'm going to say 20, because knowing California bureaucracy, it'll probably be another 30 years before we get to update this, this master plan. But this is where public input is so important. So if you can, put it on your calendar. And if you're not sure about it, watch for the announcements. It'll be there. The other thing I want to talk about is to call out Mike. And Amber, help me with Kristen's last name. Is it Ramirez? Kristen Robinson, sorry. Mike and Kristen Robinson have been fantastic in trying to get us up and going on the food trailer. And I'm not going to steal too much from Jacob's thunder on that. I just want to call them out particularly, because when we first approached the idea, unfortunately, it's my understanding, I could be wrong, no other association in California History State Parks has really tried to do food service on a massive scale. We can't actually even do that under our current contract. So we're actually going to have 2 contracts with DPR. One will actually include the interpretive stuff that we do, but the other will actually become a concession. We will be a concession like anyone else running a business, and we'll go through all those hoops. But basically, it's Mike and Kristen who figured out how to take our square peg and pound it into the round hole of all the rules and regulations they're doing. And this whole PEP process is actually, I'm going to go out and say something, Amber, you can correct me if I'm wrong, and I don't care if I'm wrong. I don't think PEP's or PEP, this whole kind of process moves this quickly. I think we would probably be lucky if we got it in 2 years' time, and they're doing it in about 6 months' time. I think they're doing about 2 years of work in 6 months' time. That's what I'm trying to say, Amber. And I just want to give an applause to Mike and Kristen for their work on that. You are aware of the programs that CBTA is offering through the events and seminars. We've got wonderful events planned throughout the summer. And one thing I want to bring up, and then I'll let the rest of my board tell me what I forgot. CBTA has been in existence for 49 years now, which means next year we have a celebration coming up. I'm going to be looking for people who would like to be part of public input or membership input as to what that 50th anniversary should look like. Believe it or not, it was started by, if I'm remembering correctly, the park superintendent at the time. And he's instrumental, and believe it or not, he's still alive. I'm not going to give out the name right now, but Joan Alday has been in touch with him, and we're hoping to get some good ideas about how we celebrate the 50th anniversary of CBTA. Board members, have I forgotten anything else? Go ahead, Vita.
Okay, I just want to mention, first of all, that because you said CBTA contributed to the master plan, interpretive master plan, we actually gave $50,000 towards it, and it's an expensive thing. That's about half of the cost. So just letting people know that the activity of CBTA. So that was while I was president. So you wouldn't have the figure in your mind. I just wanted to fill that little gap.
I wasn't going to brag, but anyway, that's it. The other thing, the basic majority of our funding goes to the interpretive aid salaries. And we put out a huge hunk of money to do that. And we are so glad that you were here. That's one of the basic things we do. Anything else before I move on?
Yes, Paul, I've got a comment real quick.
Yeah.
So for the 50th anniversary of CBTA, Debbie and I also were started 50 years ago, and it will be a three-way celebration for our 50th birthday.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. All right, this is good. All right. Thank you, Jacob, for embarrassing Debbie. It's always fun. I'm going to move on then. You have the retail report, Jacob. It's all yours.
Thank you. Thank you. So yeah, 22-23, our fiscal year will be over in what, 13 days, 14 days. So we're right at the end of it. So it makes forecasting the end of the year modestly easy. So, as the retail store manager, the income that we bring in, approximately 85% of it comes from the retail store operations, and all of that money stays inside the park. So it's a fantastic opportunity for me to use my skills to benefit a park and not a bunch of shareholders of a corporate company like I have in the past. Brick and mortar retail is actually on its way out in America and most around the world. As most people know, Amazon's taking over, but they can't stop us inside the park when we don't have any real competition there either. So it gives us an opportunity to provide souvenirs, educational information, and all kinds of fun stuff for folks to remember their experience at Big Trees. And that's what I get the most thrill out of. So it's not just about squeezing every penny of profit out of every decision. Believe it or not, profit isn't always the top most important thing in the decisions that we make as we buy things for products and that we resell. Now, the 10 years that I had as a cook and sous chef and restaurant manager prior to my retail experience, which was between 18 and 29 years old, I get to knock the rust off of those skills, as you heard, and we'll be hopefully starting a food trailer, which we already have built and is staged up in Dorrington, ready to come down. So once we have approval, we will be bringing that in, and it'll take a week or two to set up and get my county permits all lined up. But that's going to be a big opportunity for us. This fiscal year itself was kind of a mixed bag in regards to our overall financial performance. The overall sales were actually going to exceed budget. So we had a budget set at $805,000 was our goal for sales. I think we're going to end in the $840,000 to $100,000, which is pretty good. But the unfortunate, and where I say mixed bag, is we're not going to quite hit the net profit goal that we had set forth. And that's what I wanted to address, because if I were the outside looking in and you're looking at a budget and you're going, how did you exceed your sales goals, but you came short on your profit? So I wanted to address that quickly. And the main factors of the shortfall on that was the increase in cost of goods due to inflation. On average, I was seeing a cut into our gross margin of between 1.5% and 2%. And when you multiply that number out by the whole year, it's a big chunk of money, somewhere in the neighborhood of $20,000. We had a massive increase in shipping costs throughout the year. It just kept getting higher and higher and higher. And unfortunately, insurance has been tripled on us because of the fire risk of the park. In fact, we're in a pickle trying to figure out how we're going to protect our inventory moving forward, because that policy is going to be terminated as well at the end of August. So that's the work to be done for insurances. Banking costs have doubled as well. And then we also had a 50% decrease in donations overall. And the donations does hit that profitability mark because we did have it set into the budget where we were hoping to generate about $21,000 to $24,000 in donations. We'll be lucky if we hit that 15,000 mark. So that was a big miss as well. But for, as I had mentioned, for the next fiscal year, which starts in 2 weeks, we're going to start seeing an additional line of revenue coming in. So as we hit the next cycle, 23-24, I think we're going to be in a much better position to really kind of make up for the deficit that is budgeted. In fact, there's a very good opportunity that there won't be a deficit by the time we're over it next year. So looking forward to that and seeing just how much that's going to generate. Being the fiscal year being smack in the middle of the season, end of June, start of July, we'll have a slight start, kind of like a soft opening of what that food business is going to look like here at the tail end of this summer. And then next summer, when we start in May, we'll have May and June hitting that fiscal year. And then we'll be generating money for the 24-25 year after July. So I think over the next couple of years, we're going to see a big turnaround because even in my projections on what I think we can do sales wise in our food operations, my gut is telling me it's significantly underestimated. I think we're going to do a lot more business in food than I'm forecasting, but I don't have any data yet. So until we get out there and start doing it and ironing out the bugs and maximizing our profitability with that, I think on the low end, we're looking at 200,000 extra in sales at a similar margin, profitability wise, as the retail store. So that could generate, $100,000 more that we can help out DPR and interpretation for the park, which really is fun because that's going to require a whole lot of creativity to come up with even more programming and more staff support that Amber and No says we already have enough. What are you talking about? So it'll just it should help us right our finances a little bit because we did lose a good chunk of money over the last year and a half. So, but I see a light at the end of the tunnel. But that is my simple overview. I didn't want to get too crazy into categorized numbers and all that good stuff. Perhaps Bob, it will do that a little bit more. I'm not sure, but any questions for me and the retail operations of CBTA?
I think while people are thinking about it, it's not, the light at the end of the tunnel is not an oncoming freight train, it's a food trailer. And it's marvelous what you've done. And I'll steal a little thunder from Bob and Debbie in that when we did our budget, which we approved last month, we did not include the food trailer at all because it's impossible to make projections. So basically, anything the food trailer generates will be frosting on the cake. Now I'm really getting my metaphors mixed, aren't we? It's all for the good, but we're just being cautious in what we think it'll do. But Jacob, thank you for saying you think it's going to be so much better. Any other questions for Jacob? before I?
I don't have any
endorse it?
questions, but I do have a thought I'd like to share. I just want to call out Jacob for his being such a visionary. It was well before we noticed a drop in our donations that Jacob called me and said, we really need to respond to one of the single most important questions we get from visitors. Where's the food? And just thinking about what that would mean to try to take something like that on as an association with a government organization was daunting. And he was not, he didn't feel daunted. I did, just thinking about what it would take. And so, Jacob, I just want to call out your vision. I mean, to have someone of your talent and caliber working for us as our retail store manager to come up and say, hey, I've got this great idea. And not only that, but then to go for it. And your partnership skills with the park and so many challenges. I can't even tell everyone how many hardballs and what are the other word? Curveballs that we threw at Jacob, or that the situation threw at Jacob, having to do with the intricacies of how do you buy a trailer? How do you build a trailer? How do you everything from the air conditioning to the sewage to the air? I mean, there were so many obstacles put in his way that he figured out a way to overcome. And so not just the vision, but the ability to execute on something like this. I am so proud of him and Paul, because how many boards can you think of? I mean, that you've ever been involved with that knowing that we're all of a sudden in the process of doing this, running into problems with donations coming down and the cost of goods going up, and most organizations batten down the hatches. Instead, we said, let's make a big investment in something to address a concern of the visitors and potentially, bring in more revenue. I just want to say thank you so much. I think in the end, it will be a big, really big story about how a nonprofit pulled out of all of this during COVID and, made itself an even better success. Sorry. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you
I
for
think
the
we can
nice
all
words.
applaud on that. And I have in the chat 2 questions from Stacy. One, are the prices in the store going up to accommodate inflation?
Very good question. I actually am looking at those questions too. So Stacy, my answer to that is I'm trying not to. In fact, that's intentionally why I took a little bit of hit in profitability, because I just didn't want to raise the prices. And the reason that is the average ticket in the store has declined by about $3. It went from 30 down to 27. And as I'm watching a trend, what I'm seeing is the lower cost items in it's called a sales mix. So if you analyze your sales based on price point, I have basically 3 price points that I consider. There's the $10 and under category. There's everything from $10 to about $30, which is our average ticket. And then you have a number of transactions that get into the 60s and upwards of hundreds of dollars. People drop $300 sometimes on, 6 sweaters for the whole family. It happens. But on average, what is moving the most are lower cost items. And so by raising prices, what I would end up doing, and I did see some evidence on some things I tested, is it prices out some people, because sometimes they go in with a set budget in their mind. Okay, family, we're only going to spend about, $30 in souvenirs or whatnot. So if I increase the prices too much, that limits what they can actually buy. And so what I did to counter that, and what I'm seeing a huge success in, especially for May and June, we've had a 3% increase in gross margin, because I really focused on the one biggest category we have, which is our t-shirt sales. And I have renegotiated a lot of t-shirt styles that lowered my cost in the neighborhood of 25% on a lot of those styles. And I kept the price of the t-shirts under $24, whereas when you go into other parks, you see t-shirts upwards of $30 to $40. So I didn't want to do that. I want everybody that comes here to have a souvenir. So I wanted to keep the price down. But my $20 to $22 or $20 to $24 t-shirts, most that I'm buying now went from about $10 cost down to about $8. So I've cut by about 20% of my cost on those, and that's generated thousands of dollars more profit. And that will continue with just good strategic buying. And when I buy, it's about pricing items based on perceived value, not just taking a flat, my cost is this, I'm going to double that. That's the simple way of looking at retail. There's actually a term for it, and I don't remember what it's called. But that's not an educated way of pricing things. You price things based on what you think people are going to pay. And best example is stickers. Stickers and things like that that are under $6 have oftentimes the highest profit margin, because people don't feel a difference between $4 and $5. But you take a 20% increase on $30, they feel a difference between 30 and 36. They start going, I don't know, that's a little bit too expensive, even though it's the exact same profit margin. So what I focus on is increasing my profit margin on the low cost items, keeping my margin where they're at on the middle price items. And that allows me to bring in fancier items that don't necessarily have as high a profit margin. So that's a very long answer. Sorry.
Does everyone in this chat room and everything else understand why we are so lucky to have Jacob? Okay. Your second.
That's my corporate retail training applied to a nonprofit. So,
but you can explain it in terms that a person of at least of semi-average intelligence can understand. Thank you for helping us understand all that.
Theory. Yeah, that's a little bit of theory.
So,
second question, can local people work the food truck, or do they need to be a state employee? Thank you for asking that, because I really would like help. I want help because it's going to have a lot of children there, and snow cones are going to be a big portion. Again, remember what I just said? Snow cones at $3 or so has a cost of probably 10 cents. So snow cones are a part of this. And I really want help with that, because that doesn't require a lot of cooking skill. And what I'm looking for is help. Docents of the park cannot get docent credit if they're helping me at the food trailer. I tried.
That's because this is a CBTA kind of thing. Yeah,
I tried more than once, and it's a firm no, that can't be. So if there are current docents that want to help me out, I would love the help. You just don't get docent credit. But I could tell you what, you do get free lunch. Just keep that in mind, because really what I'm looking for is the trailer itself is 8 feet by 16 feet. It's a literal commercial kitchen on wheels on a double axle. It's about 8,000 pounds. It has all the equipment that a commercial kitchen could have on such a small footprint. Including an Ansel system for fire protection, air conditioning. It's loaded. It's roughly $70,000 worth of equipment. But 2 people can work in there comfortably without getting me being one of them, without elbowing each other when you're in very fast pace move, when you're getting buried in tickets. But what I want to do is have our pop-up tents on the left side of the trailer, where our sodas will be handed out. All of our sodas will be in cans so that we can recycle them. And so we will have chests of iced water for all the soda cans, giant coolers, basically. So I want to be able to deliver the food that's done right down to the outside right there, where they can pick up their drinks, and then hopefully have some help with volunteers and or staff that we're going to hire to do 2 things. 1, verify that was their order, and 2, most importantly, to communicate the requirement and the ask that we make sure that they're aware of their trash, and to make sure that any packaging that they're getting from this food, please make sure it gets into a trash can, We don't want to, feed wild animals. That is bad. And we want to make sure that you bring your soda cans back to one of the couple of recycling containers we're going to set up so that we can crush them and recycle them. So I need some help with that message being spent. I'm not going to have help inside because that's some workers' comp issues. If you get hurt and there's 375-degree oil right there, I have 2 huge deep fryers. So who works inside has to be an employee because they have to be covered under workman's comp, and also some level of cooking skill because there's not a lot of room and I don't want anybody getting hurt. So, but communicating to the visitors and helping people decide, or maybe handing out little flyers of what the menu looks like so that we can build the tickets while they're waiting in line. Walking down the line, like, when you go to In-N-Out Burger, there's somebody going, what's your order going to be? What's your order going to be? So that they're being engaged when they're in a long line. They don't feel like they're being ignored, and we're pushing food as quickly as we can. So this is going to be a fun exercise. Trust me.
So
One quick thing.
Jacob, will you be putting?
Where's this food trailer going to be? In case anyone doesn't know.
I'll get you next, Sue. Hold on. The food trailer is going to be behind Jack Knight Hall. There's a little parking lot back there that sits between 2 bathrooms, bathroom number 1 and bathroom number 3, behind Jack Knight Hall. So the food trailer will be within 200 feet. Actually, two restrooms will be within 200 feet of the trailer. That's a county requirement, by the way. It's going to sit in front of old bathroom number 2 that has been shut down and is no longer in use. There just happens to be a full 120 amp electrical panel in there, which we're going to make a 50 amp RV connector plug to power our trailer, so we're not running it on a generator and creating a bunch of noise. Who wants to be around a bunch of noise in a beautiful park right there? And it's also sitting right next to the North Grove campgrounds. So the North Grove campgrounds is on, hey, I've actually got the big stump right here and behind me. So the trailer is going to be probably about 25 feet to the right of the big stump. There's actually a little trail that comes off North Grove where you can walk right up to the food trailer. And on the other side of that is the North Grove campgrounds. And there's a lot of picnic tables already set up right there. So it's an ideal location. And it was actually land that was already disturbed, which helped with this PEF process because we didn't have to worry as much about disturbing land that was still natural, right? It's already been processed and tamped down and all that good stuff. So that's the location. We'll have sandwich boards with signs pointing people to the location, and we'll have simple menus being shown to people in the retail store too, to try to drive traffic over there. Sue.
Okay, Sue's question. Sorry, Sue, I stepped all over you on that.
Okay. Are you going to be putting out a request for volunteers? If docents don't get credit for it, you won't have to be a docent. You can just be a volunteer. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. So members, if members are in, somebody who's not active.
Yeah. So to Stacy's question, can local people work the food truck? Absolutely. And you don't have to be a state employee, and you don't even have to be a docent. You just have to be you'd be a CBTA volunteer at that.
So we need to put together something to send out a request for your help. That's what we need to do.
Yes.
Yeah. As soon as we get the trailer there, it's still some downtime before we actually open, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Because I have to do some setup, and I also have a county permitting inspection I have to have done as well.
And you don't really order the food for the food trailer until you know it's going to be used.
Well, that's the pickle we're in. We almost are sure that the PEF is wrapped up in the next week or two, but there's no guarantee that there's an objection or a stoppage. So the last thing I want to do is order perishables and then be told, we got some things to work out first. And now what do I do with the couple thousand chicken strips and hot dogs?
We proceed on faith that things are going to work out. And once again, a shout out to Kristen and Mike for running through that part, but also the shout out, Jacob, to you for jumping through all the state and county hoops. That's
It's been a
That's
learning process.
3 levels. That's 3 levels of bureaucracy you're
When it
handling.
comes-
I'm impressed.
When it comes to concessions in California state parks, I can say I know a little bit now. That was quite a process.
All right. Any other questions for Jacob? Okay, Bob, I'm going to move on to the financial report. And we have survived a pandemic. We have survived a recession. We have survived multiple shutdowns. If we have survived PG&E shutting the power off, we have survived snow days that have closed the visitor center. How are we doing, Bob?
I don't think Bob's still here. He said in the chat he had to leave.
Oh, okay. Dang. Then I think I'm on.
Fake it.
All right. Financial report. You've heard basically pretty much all the financial report that there is to be. We have been on a deficit budget this last year, but it's going to be far less than what we were afraid it would be. We are technically planning a deficit budget for next year, but we had basically, if Jacob's predictions come true, it'll work well. So in essence, the fact that we've had deficit budgets is conservative on our part. We have always tried to be really under what we hope we make, and we've always tried to be a little over what we plan to spend. And as things loosen up, then things come better. The checks have been paid. We've paid lots of things out. Debbie, what am I forgetting? You can chat it if you want, or.
I think you're pretty much good. Jacob did a good chunk of it.
Okay.
Report, so
All right.
he's the driver of most of the funds. So
Yeah, Jacob's the driver of most of the finances here. So does anyone have any question about our finances that didn't have to do with the trailer? And I'm checking. I don't see any other questions. Then if that's the case, we're going to move on to the scholarship presentations. I'd like to do it in the following order. Brett, would you be willing to speak a little bit about the scholarship itself? And then Betty, I'd like you to describe a little bit about what the scholarship process is. CBTA offers a couple of scholarships to college students. They're either upper division or grad students. And they write one heck of an essay. I've been on the reading panel before, but Brett, tell us a little bit about the scholarship that you started.
The family started the Emily M. Hewitt Scholarship Fund within a year after her death in 1985. And my mom was a feminist before that was even a word, and I don't think she would embrace it anyway. But she was everybody's favorite substitute teacher in Oakdale. I called her Mrs. Hewitt. My kid sister called her mom in class. She was a den chief for my brother's Cub Scout pack. She was always a room mother and very involved in the community. She ran for, as you've seen the storybook in the office there that I put together, she ran for and became Oakdale's first elected city councilwoman, and subsequently 2 years later became first mayor of Oakdale. I have a replica of that storybook that I put right next to my daughter's room, so she walks by it every day. And we lost her way too early in a car crash outside of Modesto, going to get her shoes dyed for my and my late wife's wedding in Davis in the Arboretum. And it was a tragedy. She came to me in a dream within days after her death and scolded me for even considering postponing the ceremony. And so we went ahead and did it in the Arboretum. Anyway, she and Dad, when they decided to move up to Arnold, by the way, Dad was assured that the home in Arnold was below the snow line, and yet every winter he was out shoveling snow. but they were volunteer docents with the park. Mom used to enact, I think it's Lizzie Whiteside, is it right, Lizzie Whiteside, at the campfires and to tell her story. But they were very involved in the park and the association and loved the camaraderie up there. What can I say? I appreciate the work that the scholarship committee goes through. I'm the president of the Yolo Community Foundation Board. We give out scholarships. I'll do anything for that organization, but I won't read scholarship applications. It's just an awful lot of work and a lot of discernment that's necessary between a lot of qualified people. And as we know, going to school nowadays is very expensive, particularly graduate school. When my last quarter here at UC Davis, my quarterly fees were $212.50. They didn't even get to $700, and that wasn't that long ago. So I think what we've done as a society in terms of college students, and if we recognize that college is the great equalizer, that people who come from less privilege have a chance to step up, I think we've really done a disservice. So you folks in providing the scholarship, and I think, Sue, is it now up to $5,000 a year? Does that sound right? I think that's something like 3. Still, that's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. I know that here at UC Davis, I have a fellowship in my grandfather's memory honor, mom's father. And one time before it was fully funded, I was actually cutting a check to provide spending as if the endowment were in place. And it was a $1,200 check. And the young lady who got it said, that's a lot of money. And that just kind of struck me that really we need to do more of this. And my late wife and I have established 9 scholarship funds, most of them at UCD, 1 at CBTA and 1 at Cal. But it's a great way of memorializing someone who's not with us anymore. So thank you for your stewardship all these years. Thank you for the work that going through the applications. I'm just stunned by the quality of the people that you continue to award the scholarship to. So thank you very, very much from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you very much, Brett. Betty, what I'd like to do is have you explain as briefly as possible the whole process. And then would you introduce, please, Kira, who's the recipient of the Hewitt Scholarship.
Very good. Well, my name is Betty Watson. My committee members this year were Vita Kink and Tony Welch. And the process in choosing the applicants, it's very tedious. It's very time consuming. Usually you have probably 7 pages, including your transcripts and everything else to read through. And it usually takes a sitting down with only 10 of them, 4 hours to read through everything. And then we make our evaluation. The 3 of us get together at the end, and it's amazing because we usually hone right in, and it makes it an easy process because we keep in mind that these scholarships that we give each year which are $3,000 each. And in making our selections, the committee focuses on Emily Hewitt and Steve Stocking's legacies. And it has to pertain to the park and their love for nature. And then CBTA's mission statement of our commitment to education and interpretation. So this year we had about 37 applicants. And anyway, all of them were very excellent. It's sometimes very difficult. And we do a lot of back and forth on how we come to the final selection. So I am very pleased as the committee chair to pass out these, announce the 2023 scholarship recipients. And we'll go with Kira Miller. Is she in attendance now?
I'm here, yes.
Oh, great. Let's see
Hi.
where. Oh, I like a face. Okay, good, Kira.
Sorry.
Congratulations. Congratulations. Well, you've been awarded the Emily M. Hewitt Scholarship, and we are so proud to present that to you. And there's Brett Hewitt, her son, right there with you, and we're very proud of that. And anyway, Kira will be attending San Francisco State University, working on her master's degree in integrative biology. And she's a natural resource intern working in outdoor education, which we focus on Emily's background in education. By the way, all three of us that were on the committee, and I am a 30-year teacher myself, retired. And anyway, we are all educators. So that's what makes it so special. Every year I kind of put myself on that committee because it's, I love to read about the future of really great kids. I'm calling you kids, but you know why. Anyway, so Kira, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. I'm out in the woods right now, actually. We were on a bike ride, but yeah, I'm a grad student at San Francisco State, and I am researching frogs, amphibian disease in the Sierra Nevada, and trying to understand how there are different susceptibilities between different species of frogs to the amphibian chytrid fungus. You know much about the mountain yellow frogs in the Sierra Nevada. Sorry about that, but I've been working in and around the Sierra since I graduated college, my undergrad in 2015, and I just fell in love with this mountain range and the wilderness and the wildlife here. And so I'm really excited to do research with the species and in a place that I really love and admire, and hope that my work can inspire other folks and also like add to conservation. I'm definitely motivated by conservation of wildlife species, and yeah, hope to share my love of nature with everyone I talk to.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for being here today too. So happy that you could be here and accept this award. The award, of course, is for $3,000 from the association, and it will be entered in your San Francisco State University college plan. So congratulations, Kara.
Thank you so much.
And Kara, thank you for taking so much time, especially to listen to us old folk talk business. But hope we didn't interrupt your bike ride too much. But I mean, it looks like you're integrating biology right behind you there. So
yeah.
Thank you so much and congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Kara. And I'd like to say a few words about Steve Stocking. I was going to pick on some of my other fellow board members who knew him, but I actually think I may have known Steve Stocking before the rest of you, in that 58, 59 years ago, he was my Nature Merit Badge counselor. He was a biology teacher at the time at Franklin High School, where my father was the principal and therefore his boss. And we went to, and I cannot remember now whether it was Kings Canyon or Sequoia National Park, but he was a ranger there. And that's where I did my first part of the Nature Merit Badge with him. A few years later, which is to say about 7 years later, he had moved on to be an instructor at Delta College in biology. And he was my biology teacher as well. So I had known him for some time, and he had been doing work down at Yosemite, and he was doing work here. He was a board member of CBTA for many, many, many years. And he was the one who was really good at speeding things up. Like, can we put this to a committee, please? And he was always the one who was given the privilege of adjourning the meeting. It was kind of like, so moved. And I have many wonderful memories of Steve. And when we were board members together, I actually picked him and Sanders Lamont up, and we would carpool together up to the meetings. And I was just the young person at the time. I was only in my 50s or 60s, listening to these wise people talk about nature, talk about teaching, talk about everything. And I learned so much just on the rides back and forth. So, Betty, why don't you introduce Lewis, who is the Steve Stocking Scholarship winner?
Okay, a little bit about Steve too. I also had the privilege of working with Steve and being on the board with him. Yes, and Steve would always challenge you. I would go into the visitor center to work with him, and he'd say, okay, Betty, you've got to look this up today. We're going to check out the birds. He loved ornithology and all of that. So he was always an educator, as an educator is always an educator, believe me. So anyway, I would like to introduce and thank you, Louis, for being so patient. You had to sit through this all. I'd like to introduce Louis Semino. Is that correct? Louis, are you there?
Yes, it's Semino.
Semino, okay, good. I got it right. All right, Louis. Anyway, Louis, attending the University of California, Berkeley. He's working on attaining his bachelor's degree right now in ecosystem management and forestry. And as you are working today in forestry right this day, we're so proud of that too. And anyway, his educational goal is to get his master's degree in forestry and becoming a California registered professional forester. So keep going. And we're very proud to present you that scholarship, Louis. Would you like to tell us something about yourself?
Certainly, yeah. I'll start by saying thank you all so much. This really does mean a lot to me that my application resonated with you all and with the mission of CBTA and with Steve's values and ideals. As a student, especially at Berkeley, the forestry program has a big emphasis on the importance of fire in forest ecosystems. So, Amber, everything you were saying earlier was really resonating with me. It's come up a lot in my studies, and it was exciting to hear from you. And just to really tie all these things in together with Steve's story, I heard from Sue in the announcement email I received that Steve also worked at Sequoia, which is where I decided to become a forester. So just massive thanks to everyone, and I very much appreciate it.
We're very proud of all of you, and congratulations. And I hope you enjoy your school year. And by the way, I'm also on the seminar committee. And someday when you are all educated, would you please come back to Calaveras Big Trees and give a seminar for us, possibly in your forestry career? We would love that. So keep us in mind, and you really appreciate what you're doing and your future ahead. So congratulations to both of you. Thank you. Okay.
Louis, I thank you very much for putting up with us for an hour and a half. I hope you've been able to do some studying or something while we've been talking on and on and on, but thank you for joining us today. It's wonderful that because of Zoom, we're actually able to see the people. Before this, we never got to see the people that we had. Well, sometimes they would come up and join us for our picnic, but thank you very much for joining us, and good luck in all that you're doing, and thanks for being a steward of the forest. Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to move on. Did everyone receive the biographies of the candidates?
No.
I will introduce them, but if we can speed it up, does everyone know who most of these people are? Okay, we have 4 people running for re-election. Our board can consist of anywhere from 5 to 15 members, and they serve 2-year terms. These 2-year terms can be 3 2-year terms for 6 years total. Then you need to take a year off before you are elected again, at least a year off. And the first person I've already mentioned is Vita Kink. You can raise your hand. I've already told you all the reasons why you should vote for her. She has basically been serving 10 out of the last 11 years on the board and has been a great leader. And she's currently going to be involved in strategic planning for the future, for the coming up. Peter, you've waved your hand there. Peter, would you tell us a little bit about the fund that funds the interns. That has absolutely nothing to do with this, but I let Brett have something about his fund. I think it's only fair to let you have some say as well. Tell us a little bit about the fund.
Well, I started coming to Calaveras as a teenager, and my wife and I, Diane and I, started coming to camp primarily in Opalo in 1970s. And in the early 1990, Diane got a bequest from her parents and decided to establish a student intern trust that helps to fund the student interns. And then she unfortunately died of she was a neurosurgeon and died of a brain tumor. And at the time of her death, we helped to fund the visitor center in her honor. So the Student Intern Trust carries on our love for the park. It's been a very special, don't consider myself a religious person, but it is my spiritual place to come, especially the South Grove. So we look forward every year to these wonderful people that come to be student interns. And of course, as we just heard, great people who are funded by scholarships from the CBTA to continue their work. So this helps a little bit to continue our love for the park. Thanks.
Thank you, Peter. Bob Boughton, who was supposed to give the financial report, is our treasurer, and he's also running for a 2-year term. And he has been on the last 2 years. He is a retired environmental scientist for the state of California, having done other things as well. He's also currently involved in such places. I think he was involved with Sacramento Zoo. I'm not sure if that survived, but he's also done the Railroad Museum. He's involved with Semper Virens, whatever that is. He's involved with so many good conservation groups. And he is running, and Patty, save the best for last. Patty's running for her last 2-year term of, she's been our seminar and events, as I mentioned before, very efficient. The whole summer program is put on behind. She's one of those great behind the scenes person who gets things organized, makes phone calls, write letter, puts up with lots of stuff that we probably won't mention. And Patty is our incumbents running. And then Sally. We have Sally here waving again. Tell us a little bit about yourself. This is our newest nominee to join us on the board. She's been attending board meetings for some time, but
Hi, I am currently a teacher at Mountain Oaks School. That's a charter school in San Andreas. It is under the Calaveras County Office of Ed, so it's a part of the public ed system. I've been there for a little over 10 years, and I had taught previously before being at Mountain Oaks as well. So I'm a credentialed high school math teacher is my specialty. And I started at Big Trees about 5 years ago. I joined the California Naturalist class with Wendy Harrison, which I thoroughly enjoyed. And at the same time, became a docent. So for me, the two things were almost inseparable. It just gave me a really good foundation for understanding a little bit about the park and what I was looking at and so forth. So I enjoy spending my summers primarily in the park. And I'm very honored and flattered to be a part of the board.
I first met Sally a few months ago, and as a retired math teacher, I met her at the STEAM day, where she was basically showing kids how to estimate the height of a tree by measuring the shadow, measuring their pace, and so on. And I said, cool, an isosceles right triangle, that's great. And she actually understood what I meant. And I said, she's a math teacher, I love it. Okay, so that's my campaign for a fellow math teacher. At this time, then, those are the members who are standing for election. Your one big business today is to have a poll, and that has just been launched. And if you would please, you have a few minutes to vote. And you get 5 little clickies. You don't have to do 5 clickies. And then you press submit. It should then disappear from your screen. In the old days, we had the ballots counted while the president did a song and dance routine, kind of stalling for time, and then we would count the votes. While we're doing that, we will have a short issue for discussion and questions and so on. If there's anything we missed out, we will be closing the annual meeting and then immediately going into a regular board meeting. And that's something we've always pretty much done in the past. The board sticks around and we elect the officers for the 2023-2024 election. It is not like a closed session, so if anyone wants to hang around, you're fine. And if you're hungry enough for lunch and you decide you don't care who's running the show, you go right ahead and leave when that happens. How are we doing, Sue? Do we need more time for people
Well,
to?
I'll give you 10 more seconds. I can't tell who's, how many have voted. I mean, I can tell how many have voted. I don't know how many haven't voted. Okay.
Okay.
We're done voting now.
All right. Wave your hand if you need more time to vote. If I don't see you wave your hand, then we're going to assume you voted if you wanted to.
Okay, we're done. Guess
We're
what?
done. Drum roll, please.
Everyone was unanimously reelected.
Everyone was
And-
unanimously reelected or elected.
And elected.
All right. Condolences for all of you who are going to have to put up for another year, especially with the likes of me. Is there any discussion, any question? I see in the chat, congratulations to both of the there. Okay, so that's basically dealing with the scholarship. If I don't see hands,
Paul?
yes.
Paul?
Oh, Patty. Oh no, Nancy.
Yeah.
Nancy, hello.
So does CBTA have any particular focus for the next fiscal year about what you're trying to accomplish? I mean, besides the food truck, is there any?
The food truck obviously is going to be a big financial thing. Are you talking about focus on financial issues in the store or just our general goal?
Just
We're
the general goal, is there, strategic
I would say
plan for-
basically interpretation and education is going to be the main goal overriding almost everything else, because the interpretive master plan is coming up. And as Amber said, there's great new communication opening up. And once again, just to give a plug for Amber, if I can. No, I made you blush a few months ago, but if we need CBTA and the park and the district working together to figure out an interpretive plan. And I think that's pretty much the goal of what we're doing.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. There are a number of little things this president would like to do. I'd like to redo the bylaws so that this Zoom meeting is actually legal. There are lots of little things to do, but that's the main focus, Nancy, is getting to education, interpretation, and including the prescribed burning that Amber talked about so much. That was actually one of the things that everyone agreed with in the first interpretive master plan planning session, was that prescribed burning, along with everything else. I mean, prescribed burning is one of the tools, okay? It's the one that gets the most attention, but there are lots of other tools too. But work that into the interpretive education program. Am I stepping okay, Amber? Yeah. So I can see us including in our seminar and events updates perhaps on that. And we've already heard from Amber that there are going to be like town hall meetings doing that and reaching out to the community, both the parks and CBTA. And I'm going to flat out speculate. Wouldn't surprise me if docent meetings start updating people on prescribed burnings too. I mean, I know they already have. So does that answer your question,
Yeah,
Nancy?
yeah, but I was thinking about one thing too, is did the climate stewards class happen?
Oh, thank you for bringing that up. No, it did not. Because of a series of things, we only had 4 or 5 people sign up. And so we were thinking, we're in that position, as you know, as a former board member and as our former treasurer, we fund a lot of that. And we were actually willing to go ahead and do it, but to do it for only 4 or 5 people, both the presenters and so on, were kind of, I don't think so. And do you really bring speakers up to speak to 4 or 5 people? So just the logistics of that, we said, okay, we'll try again in 2 more years. So we'll get the year rolling again we're basically doing the naturalist program and the climate stewards every other year. Am I getting that pretty right, everyone? I think so.
I wanted to talk about that, Paul.
Yes, Patty, go for it. Thank you.
We are offering the California Naturalist course again, and it will be on Thursdays and Fridays in June. We've already met, there are 4 instructors, and we've already met and started talking about that. So that definitely will happen next year. And then also I have already secured Jamir Laws to do a journaling presentation for May the 4th. So, and I'll be working with Amber's replacement to figure out some prescribed burning, do a seminar on that. So that's my little report.
Hey, Patty, I just wanted to thank you so much for setting up the event in August with Adam Lewis, the leader of the Calaveras Band of Miwok Indians. I'm so looking forward to that. I want to thank you so much for doing that.
Well, that was because of Amber. Amber is the one that helped me with that.
Thank you, Amber.
Her and her husband were very instrumental in doing that. So.
And Adam is on the interpretive master plan inner circle there too. So that's great to have that input. Are there any other questions or discussion? We have already brought ourselves down to 20 people. If not, I'm going to pull a Steve Stocking and declare that this meeting is about closed. All those who wish to agree with that decision, press leave. Otherwise, you're going to stick around for another board meeting. Thank you all. Recording in progress. Everyone got that? Okay, here we are. So we have the minutes of the last meeting that I was going of the May 31. I'm just going to do that at the July board meeting. Is that okay with everyone? Good. Moving on. Reports. Oh, gee, we have none. Old business. Oh, gee, we have none. New business is election of officers for 2023, 2024. You received before you, hopefully from me yesterday or the day before, I forget when I sent it, the actual list that has been proposed by the nominating committee for officers for next year. Just as a show, okay. You have that before you. Any question about the slate? Okay. I would accept a motion to accept the slate of officers.
So moved.
Okay. I have a move and second to accept the slate of officers proposed by the nominating committee. Any other question, discussion? All those in favor of those officers signify by saying aye or raise your hand or whatever.
Aye.
Okay. Any nays? Any abstentions?
Is there a quorum of the boards?
Whoa, that's a good question. 1, 2,
Okay.
3, 4, 5, 6. We have 6 of the 8. So yeah, I declare that to be a quorum.
Peter.
Okay.
Peter doing that.
Any other business that has to be brought before this meeting because my stomach is rumbling?
Okay, so when they become, these officers are effective as of when?
As of right now. We passed a board resolution last July. Remember that came up as a question?
I'm just
at the-
want it clarified for everybody. I know.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yep. You are now serving your next
Sally
2-year
is-
term, even though it says July 1.
So Sally didn't stay to vote. Could set. Oh yeah, there.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. There
she
you
voted.
are. Go ahead. Sitting right
Yeah.
next to you.
That's
Okay.
okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, that was something we got into last year, as you recall. Who's voting for the budget? Yeah.
Paul,
yeah.
Paul, Mr. Bloom has a question.
Oh, go ahead. Where are you?
Um,
Yes, hello, Mr. Bloom.
Fine. I'm from England, and some of you may or may not know. But I had a question which I put it to you in an email, which I don't know whether any other questions came in, but obviously this was sent off yesterday. And the question was for everybody, really. Certainly, I'm glad to be at the meeting, and I understand what you were all putting into things. But I went to the Calaveras Grove, and I had a moment too. It was very awe-inspiring and very moving. And the history of the discovery of the trees and the age of the trees and the absolute awesome presence of them was really something to take in, particularly when you started to read about the aspect of a tree, the mother tree, being skinned and then brought back to New York and then to England. And I wonder how many people actually know about that. And I'm looking at things really more from a world point of view. You have the duty and doing a great job by the sound of it of looking after the park. But what I'm asking a question in some respects is that I wrote a book, which is a children's book, which brings in the Calaveras Grove very clearly. And I haven't been able to, I have been in touch with different people at the Grove. I had no feedback really that I could say was particularly helpful. And I would like to draw it to your attention that if you would, or if you're able to, with you or one of your other generations, perhaps look at an ebook which is called Wow, Wow, Wow by Adrian Bloom. And I tried to, in this really, I may print the book too, but I tried to draw attention through a squirrels, if you like, the Doug squirrel, the chicory, to connect it to a wider audience. And I think that that may be one way you could get more income, possibly by having donations from a much wider audience. Always the Calaveras Grove, to me, the first one that was discovered, means much more than the others, although there's bigger trees than some of the other ones, of course, and I've been to Kings Canyon, Yosemite, and elsewhere. So I would just like to leave you with that thought. Would you please, if you can, look at Amazon Kindle? I can't sort of do anything else except to suggest that. And if there's something wrong with the interpretation, I think I have made it clear. It's in the Calaveras Grove, it's under the Lincoln tree, and that's where this young boy who comes from Bend, Oregon, meets up with a talking squirrel, and we go from there. Anyway, on the way, it passes the history in relation to Europe and England and the things that happen and so on. So I would like, if you could possibly read it and get some feedback. And if you think that it has some possibility of having a wider interest, I would just mention that what I thought was a connection was that the book ends at a point where you could have other people take it on. For instance, it would be very good. We talk about the discovery of the trees. Well, actually, the Miwok were there well before we were. And if the Miwok, for instance, were able to tell a story about the Calaveras Grove and about the trees that were in it and the tribes and what they did in the summer, that it made a sort of story that also could be for children. And then I can carry on the story in Europe, the number of trees that have been planted. And I would end up by saying that I planted a tree. I was in Squaw Valley Winter Olympics working there. And I sent some seed home in 1960. It was grown on. I planted them out in 1964. They're now over 100 feet high. So that comes into it as well. We've also got gray squirrels, of course. So whether you're all receiving this, a lot of you have left, I know, but I would appreciate some feedback if I could.
I am so thrilled that you would join us. Thank you, Mr. Bloom. The name of the book again is?
Well, it's a kid's attraction. It's a wow. When the boy falls over and sees the tree, he sees the tree and then falls over and he says, wow, wow, wow,
Oh, wow.
And that's it. That's the WOW. That's the title of the book, 3 wows.
I just found it on Amazon. It's listed as no cost available on Kindle if you have an unlimited Kindle membership.
Wonderful. Thank you. Amber, comments. I saw you writing things down. This is interesting.
I wrote it down to take a look at. Unfortunately, I don't have Kindle. So if anyone does or pulls it up, we'd be interested in reading it.
That we will. I had an amazing experience in the warming hut several years ago. In the warming hut, we have maps of California and the United States and the world, and people put pins where they are. And after a few weeks, the map is, you fill all sorts of places. And I had a halting conversation with a woman who's from Italy. Right. And between my broken Spanish and her good Italian, I got from her that she had seen Sequoia giganteas that had been planted from our park in the Southern Alps. Right. And it was like 100 years old or something like that. And she wanted to see what the big ones really look like. Yeah. And it's those kind of stories. You're absolutely right. It's Calaveras big trees has been around the world. And then the other thing I remember seeing was in the Crystal Palace in London back in 1999. They actually had an interpretive panel showing what was left of the mother of the forest being in that Crystal Palace, and that it came from Calaveras County in California. I mean, they had our county and everything there. So you're absolutely right. The impact of we sometimes forget we get real local here, but you're right. It's known around the world. Thank you, Mr. Bloom.
Well, I think I'm keen to, in a way, not only just promote the book. I'm passionate about plants. I have a 6-acre garden, and I have those redwoods that I planted overlooking the garden. And so, it means much more to me than just putting a book out that's going to make him money. That'll be another question. I suspect it won't. But anyway, I'll put it on Amazon. I'm sorry if it's Amazon Kindle, but I may well get it printed as a proper book, and we'll get it better designed than what's online.
Mr. Bloom, this is Marcy. I have a question. I'm so excited to read the book. And my question was just to clarify your ask of us. Would be to help you create an ebook?
Well, what my ask of you is, firstly, that you feel it's useful for people to recommend to understand really what the redwoods mean. And I'm doing it through a squirrel, and I'm having a bit of fun with the squirrels. But the main thing is that we bring the attention of the redwoods and what is trying to be conserved there is something that's, you know, it's life going back 2000 or 2,500 years, whatever you believe. And it's a long, long time. And that is something we should, I don't say worship, but we should be aware of across the world, because it's so tied up with the environment. And, you know, you see the fires in California and you think, well, these redwoods are possibly in danger and so on. And I think a lot of people in America don't fully understand either what they are and what they represent. And I wondered if the MIWOC could, you know, we can discuss this further along the line. If they read this book, they could do another book for children, generally speaking. So there's an understanding coming back from them as well, if that's possible. And I may well get over again this year, next year, certainly. And I would like to meet up with somebody there, if possible, and yourselves, of course, some of you, just to explain what we might achieve with it.
I think it's an interesting prospect. I'm really excited about it. I was just reminded recently, I'd forgotten it, you know, Big Trees was the first place that giant sequoias were discovered in America. And then secondly, that what happened at Big Trees sparked the American conservation movement in the 1800s. So, I mean, the history is deep. And I think the idea of a children's book to bring maybe a series of children's books is exciting. I can't wait to read it.
Okay, well, I hope you do get a chance, and thanks for those comments.
Where are you from in England?
Well, from a place called Bressingham Gardens, and we have 17 acres of gardens and so on. So if you want to look up, our website, it's bressinghamgardens.com, and you'll see a little bit about us.
Yeah. Could I ask, that gets to the question that I wanted to ask, is how do we contact you to give you any feedback? And perhaps you could write that in the chat or something, because I'm not too sure how to spell Brickenham. I mean, I know that often in England, there's a spelling that does not necessarily, to an American ear, match what is being how it's pronounced.
That's very, very true. Actually, you wouldn't believe that I have actually been in correspondence quite a lot with different people, and I've found it very difficult to make progress, and also with Jacob, and the interpretation that I think some of the people put onto the book was that it didn't have the right words for the redwoods. Well, now redwoods to people in England and in the rest of Europe is probably redwoods, not giant trees, not and there's the coast redwood, as I put in the book, is quite separate, and I showed on a map and so on. So it's quite separate, and it's based in the Calaveras Grove and under the Lincoln tree, so it can't be anywhere else. So if there's any use of language or misuse of the trees, then I'd be happy to know about it. I can soon change that.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm a biologist, and I tend to think of the redwoods as a general term, you know, as it is used in England. And then there are the coast redwoods. And for example, so Save the Redwood League and Sempervirens concentrates on them. Yeah. There's also, by the way, the dawn redwood that was discovered in China, first known as a fossil. So it's a fascinating story. And also, the year after the discovery tree was cut down, or in fact, probably the same year, 1853, seeds were gathered and sent to England. And you know, the Kew Gardens gets things from all over the world. And that's among just the very first places. So there are, as you mentioned, groves, actual groves of the giant sequoia in England. And some of them are very, you know, pretty, well over a century old. Yeah. So thank you for that. And if you would, if you make sure that we know how to spell how to reach you, or is there an another email that would be appropriate?
It's in the chat.
I have an email address.
Oh, it's in the chat?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Just put it there.
Thank you.
Just to clarify, I have Adrian's email from just about the time I started transitioning. And I know some of my feedback was that we would prefer giant sequoia as the term, as we battle a ton of confusion among the non-scientific public who does not understand when you say redwood, that a redwood here is very different from a redwood on the coast. So that's my
Well
only
said.
thing, is that for the general public, while we understand what redwood is, they don't, and they don't understand their difference in growing, and that like the coast redwood can grow from a mother tree and that sort of thing. So that was a big difference for us.
The giant
well,
sequoia
that's fine,
is our
Amber.
term.
I do remember being in touch with you.
Yeah.
And so I think by all means, those things, if there's anything in the copy that you feel wants to be changed or at least clarified, then I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, and I'm going to say I haven't actually read it because I didn't have access to the whole thing. I think I saw.
I think I hadn't read it at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had COVID at the time. I had COVID in Italy, so I had to do something.
Thank you, Adrian.
Okay, right.
Thank you, Mr. Bloom. It's been an honor. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you so much.
And good evening. Yes.
I'm glad we spoke.
Thank you.
Okay. Goodbye.
Bye.
Oh, that was fun.
All right, Jim, I see your nice smiling picture face right there in front of Yosemite. How are you? There he is.
Hey, Jim. Good to
Hi.
see you.
Well, thanks. Sorry I was late. We got hung up at Michael's trying to get some picture frames. So
That's great. Do we have any more business before the board, or shall we adjourn this?